I didn't know where home was till Rod started doing his research, because no one ever spoke about it. And to know that this is where our heritage is, in a sense, this is where we belong, and that overwhelming sense of coming home, it just feels so good. Buongiorno, my name is Gay Lynn Tonelli, and I am the granddaughter of Attilio Tonelli, who was born here in Vezzano. I now live in Charlottesville, Virginia, USA, and will be moving to New York City shortly to join my children. And this is my wonderful nephew, Rodney Tonelli.
Thank you. So as Gay said, I'm her nephew. I'm the son of Dennis Tonelli. Dennis is also the grandson of Attilio, the person who emigrated from Vezzano. I'll introduce my daughters. This is my oldest daughter, Emma, and my youngest daughter, Olivia. There was not a lot known in our family about Attilio's journey or history from what my father told us and what my grandfather, George, told us. Attilio did not talk much about being from here or being Italian or being Austrian or whatever he may have been at the time, but he became an American and he spoke English and he didn't share the history. So we knew very, very little, and Attilio lived the last part of his life with my grandfather. And so when Attilio passed, my grandfather was the one who inherited all of his belongings and ephemera. And then through my father, I inherited that stuff. So I have his original passport, his military passport, his documents from the Casino de Bersaglio, and just a lot of ephemera from the time he emigrated. And so that inspired me to start doing the research and build the family tree. And that's how I found Ecomuseo and started to tell that story. So very grateful to be able to share that. And here we are. I don't know how many years later, but we're in Vezzano for just one day. But we had the opportunity to talk with the team here and share this story. And it's very inspiring to be here. Again, I spent about a decade researching the family. I can't believe I'm here. Well, it's many generations, obviously. The three right here that came home. So.
And Rod's father, Dennis George, is my brother. So, our grandfather lived with my family, with Giorgio and his wife Jeanette, and for a long period of time. I know from the time I was born to the time I was 5 years old, he lived with us. And then we moved houses, and then he got a small place himself, not far from where we lived. But I'm not sure that my grandfather and my mother got along all that well. My grandfather always spoke with an Italian accent. He was a man of few words. He didn't share a lot. Rod was absolutely right when he said he didn't talk about his past. He spoke English. There was no Italian spoken in the house, and I think that was the way he brought up his children, which just hurts my soul that wasn't carried through. But I do think that there was a lot of prejudice against immigrants at that time, particularly Italian immigrants. So they really needed to adapt quickly in order to survive, and that sort of carried through with their personal life as well. Some of my biggest memories of my grandfather would be when he would come out, he would eat dinner with us, he would then frequently sort of retire to his room or go outside in the summer, and he had a chair that was out in our side yard. We had a grove of lilacs that he'd like to sit by, and peony bushes, and he liked to sit and be in that area, and there was a little woods across the street, so he would like to sit out there. And the chair would rock a little bit. And by that time, he was quite an elderly man. He had pretty skinny legs. I think he was pretty well built when he was older, but at that point he had pretty skinny legs. But he was very broad-chested, as I remember him. Of course, I was an itty-bitty thing, so he may not have been as big as I thought he was. But he would sit out there, and we would play and come up and talk to us, and he'd sort of talk to us. I remember he would tease me a lot, but I think he thought it was teasing. To me, it was confusing and a bit scary. I remember bringing one of my cousins from my mother's side of the family and asking him if he remembered her, and he said, "I remember her. I know her. You? I don't know." And I was like, what do I do? What do I do? You know, it's gay. You know, no, I don't know. And now I look back at it and I think, oh, he was teasing me. But a lot of the ways he would tease me, I think I didn't quite understand, and it probably more frightened me than teased me. For the first 5 years of my life, he was a daily presence in my life. I think that I have a pretty strong resemblance to my grandfather, as my father did. So, you know, it just carries through. Rod will tell you a little more about his musical ability. He had a band at one point and was the leader of the band. And I was always very musical, and I always sang. I was trained as a coloratura soprano, and I always think he must have sung with me at some point. He wasn't playing an instrument, but he must have sung with me at some point. And my dad had a very deep, gravelly voice, but he would always sing with us as well. And the four of us children would sing in four-part harmony as very, you know, I was a very small child when we started doing that. And I remember we would sing for my grandpa. So that was a nice memory. So he was, he could be a little difficult sometimes. He was quite sure of who he was and what he was right about. I remember that. So, but he never really went into in-depth conversations. I don't know how in-depth you could have gotten with a 5-year-old, but you know, he never really went too much in-depth. And even after we moved to the new house and my grandfather moved into a little place of his own, we would be over there every day, and we would always bring him all his meals, and he had his chair out there, and he would sit in the chair and sort of rock in the chair. He died when I was 10, so it was just a small portion of my life. When he died, he was 80, what? About 80, I think.
Around 80.
Around 80. And I stop and think about it now, because I always thought of him as an elderly man. And I'm 75. I am the age now he was then. But those are the major memories I have of him. I do remember his brother, my Uncle Joe lived in Michigan, and we would occasionally see Uncle Joe. He was a younger brother, and I remember my grandfather's family night or wake, and Uncle Joe was there, and I was 10, I was smaller. Uncle Joe was elderly. It was the last time I saw him, and I remember he leaned down to me, and he had a cane, and he said, tears in his eyes, "No more grandpa, no more grandpa," you know. And that was the last thing Uncle Joe ever said to me.
So obviously I never got to meet him in person, but was grateful to have the opportunity to be able to do the ancestry research and kind of become the historian for the family. And so we know he emigrated in 1905 by ship and ended up in South Wilmington, Illinois, where his first job was working as a miner in a strip mine. And he ultimately opened a grocery store. So we believed he worked in the mine until he could have enough money to open the store in South Wilmington. And at some point he moved to Joliet, Illinois, and had a couple of locations. He had a brother, Theodore, that also had a grocery store in Joliet. So there was two Tonellis with grocery stores in Joliet. We know that, and I shared some of these documents, these historical documents with the museum. We know that he was working in the mines in Wilmington and sending money back home to his parents, Teodoro and Josepha. And then we discovered that at some point he had started sending that money to a couple of his siblings, and because at that time Teodoro and Josepha were on their way to the United States to visit. He had met Perina Pomado, who was born in the U.S. and married Perina. And in 1908, his parents, Teodoro and Josepha, came to visit him and Perina. And I have found the ship manifest from them traveling, and I know they traveled with a couple of his other siblings, Getulio and Libera. And what we didn't know until we started doing the ancestry research is it appears, or we know that his mom, Josepha, passed away while she was visiting him in the United States. And I was able to locate her grave. And my daughter Olivia and I went to this rural cemetery in Braidwood, Illinois, and we walked all over the place until we found it. We have a picture of both of us next to it, but I think for her, that's 7 generations. Nobody in my family knew that Josepha was buried in the United States. So again, just that there was never any conversations about any of it. So when we were in the cemetery today, and obviously most of our family members aren't going to be seen there or have markers there, but I actually found one of Attilio's siblings. I found a plaque for Cesarina Garbari née Tonelli. And she was the last currency receipt that he sent back was to Cesarina. So I said hi to her.
There was one thing I was going to mention. I've always loved the mountains. And you wouldn't know that Joliet is in the Midwest, and it is so flat.
You say Piate?
Piate. And living in Virginia, you know, these wonderful mountains are minutes away from my home. But as we were coming in to Trento, and we just kept going down, 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 down to the valleys. And I thought, well, we will surely be going up at some point. No, down, 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 down. But it just spoke to my soul. And I thought to myself, I've always felt so at home and so comfortable and drawn to the mountains. Now I know why. It's in the blood, it's in the lineage. This is what Grandpa woke up to every day until he came to the United States. Did he ever come back home to visit home?
He never came back, no. He had another brother, Evaristo Lorenzo, that emigrated to Argentina, and they corresponded a lot. So in some of the documents that I inherited was a lot of letters and photographs that Evaristo was sending to Attilio. So we have photographs of Evaristo and his wife and his children, and again, information about someone we never would have known about otherwise. As Galen mentioned, we don't know much, but we know that Attilio was a band leader. Not certain what he played. I saw a picture of the band, and there was a horn, maybe like a clarinet or something.
I thought it was a brass.
But not certain. But he certainly, we know he was involved with a musical band and was a band leader in the States. So
we know he was entrepreneurial.
For sure, entrepreneurial.
Mm-hmm. You know, many Tonellis in Illinois are very entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. It seems to be an American Tonelli trait.
Well, I think that's part of why they left too, mm-hmm. right? Because there was a limited opportunity for what you can do in this place at that point in time. So,
mm-hmm. and we all came here for my daughter's wedding because what she wanted was a small destination wedding in Italy because she's always been drawn to Italy.
But that wasn't in Vazzano.
But that was not in Vazzano, no. I went back up a little bit to something from my childhood about my grandfather. At some point, when we moved, mail started getting and sent to our house, and my grandfather's mail started getting sent to our house. And every maybe 6 months or so, 3 months, 6 months, we would get a newsletter. At some point, there must have been someone publishing a newsletter about Venzano, and I would see that come in, and I would try to figure out what was going on in that letter and see if there were faces that I could recognize because they would have pictures in it, and
your dad would just throw it out.
My dad would just throw it away. Yes. Yeah.
I never got to see that.
It stopped coming after some time, so maybe the person who was trying to keep people in touch with each other just, you know.
Well, when having done the ancestry research and kind of the historical research, tying all those documents and such back together, during that, you know, in modern technology, right, we can all go on Google Earth and go in Street View. So I've been in Vazzano 100 times. And I've even seen it change over the years. There was a store in the square that I have an old historic postcard that was Tonelli. And maybe 5, 6, 8 years ago, I was on Street View and looked, and it was something else, and it's something else today. It's a different color today. But from going through the cemetery, through place after place, and just the name just pops out. You see it on every plaque, on monuments, on posters for current things. And it's just such a joy to be able to walk in the footsteps.
I agree with Rod. I've always wanted to come back home. I didn't know where home was till Rod started doing his research because no one ever spoke about it. And to know that this is where our heritage is, in a sense, this is where we belong, and that overwhelming sense of coming home, it just feels so good.
We're only here for one day, but we're staying in a bed and breakfast, La Locanda del Cuore, and it's owned by Fabio Tonelli, which in some branch, many branches ago is a relative, but His wife, Stefania, who runs the bed and breakfast,
Lovely,
asked me
she's
today,
lovely.
she said, "Do you know what house your family's was?" I said, "No, but somebody please find out. I would love to know that. I will come back if you find out which house it was." In where Attilio's wife, Perina Pomato, she's not from here, but the town that she's from, I actually do know the house. And the road is via Pomato, and it's their farm. It still says Pomato. So that's my request to this project, is figure out which house my great-grandfather was from, and I'll come back and visit again.
Maybe also right away this afternoon you will know it.
I can't wait to go to the church.
Yeah.
My cousin Kathy's son, Matthew, visited, and he visited the church. And he's walking down the main aisle. He's looking, and he got to the center, and he put the camera down, and there was a marble stone with Tonelli on it. Isn't that?
Albini Tonelli.
What was it?
Albini
Albini Tonelli. My son and my daughter have been here before. My daughter's been here several times. I think my son's been here twice, but they've never come north.
And they still haven't.
And they still haven't. They were going to come, my daughter and her husband were going to come and hike in the Dolomites, but for some reason they weren't able to do it at that time.
Having been 3 or 4 generations removed from my great-great-grandfather immigrating to the U.S., and of course the subsequent rapid-fire assimilation to U.S. culture, I've never felt very connected to my Italian heritage, but of course I still have the Tonelli name, and so when people meet me, they automatically think, "Oh, you're Italian." I can tell it right away from the name. And I'm like, yes, but not really. I don't feel like I have that culture, that heritage. And so coming back here and being here, just walking around the cemetery today and seeing all of the Tonelli names, and of course all of the research that my dad has done in the past, it's sort of these threads that we've been able to pull and weave together that have made me finally have a sense of yes, this is my history as well. I do have the Tonelli name.
It's, just to add, the name, in the United States, people like Italian names. They're strong, they're easy to recognize, right? So when you're Tonelli, it's like, oh, you're Italian. I'm mostly Polish. Even my Italian part's mostly maybe not Italian and Austrian, and but it's such a cool name. So.
Oh, I've got this. So I always wondered about my grandfather. Once we found his passports, and we were moving the safe from my father from Giorgio's house, and it was going to Rod's, and they had cleaned out the safe, and we were going through the little drawers to make sure everything was out of them, and Rod pulls out a drawer, and out from the bottom, these 2 passports fell out. And one was the Italian passport he used to get here.
No Italian passport.
No
No Italian passport, because it
there
was Austria at the time.
It was Austrian passport.
Franz Joseph.
Franz Joseph. And then that one of them, though, was a military transport. Now, I often wonder if he was conscripted into the Austrian army. We don't know.
Well, he had, again, the Austrian military passport, and he had some obligation to check in to the Austrian consulate in Chicago a couple of times and get a stamp. And there's only 1 or 2 stamps in there. But that would have been, not too much before World War I. So, and then he had the other document he had was the Casino de Bersaglio. And I don't really fully understand what that is, like a militia or like rifle brigade, but more for local defense.